Ahoy mateys! Welcome back to another members exclusive video, and welcome back to another edition of Sunday Stock Watch. We have got a big week ahead of us, you guys. Massive earnings. Apple, Amazon, Alphabet, Meta, Microsoft. 5 of the Mag 7 stocks announced this week. And although we're only trading Apple in the Waves portfolio, it is inevitably going to be a massive week for the markets overall, and these earnings will inevitably be creating waves across the entire market. So, exciting times ahead. Hope you guys had a relaxing weekend and have a nice Sunday night, because we are about to ride through some choppy waters, and things are definitely going to be incredibly volatile. Okay? Happy Halloween. Wall Street braced for a big week ahead of the election with mega cap tech earnings, key data on tap. We'll read over this. Short and sweet, you guys. You can always go do more research into these kind of things if you'd like to, but we are only going to read these 2 paragraphs right here, and actually this quote below, because I feel pretty similarly to that. And then we'll dive into the charts. Okay, the names we're going to be discussing today are Apple. Because we're discussing big tech earnings, we're kicking it off with that. We'll talk about the one name that we are trading in this mix, in this Mag 7 mix. And as many of you know, of course, if you are part of the newsletter portfolio group, which I imagine the far majority of you are, if not, first link in the description, but is Apple. So puts on Apple is the trade that is directly related to the earnings we have coming up this week. We do have RIOT Platforms announcing earnings on Tuesday. Is Wednesday as well. So that's actually exciting. And we're going to take a look at good old RIOT after we take a look at Apple. So kick it off with Apple on the charts. Move on to Palantir. This won't surprise any of you. Palantir, still my favorite stock in the market. Just said that in my last video discussing Palantir. Go check that out if you want a slightly more in-depth look at Palantir and from a fundamental perspective, but still talking technicals. We'll keep this one more short-term because we're focusing on the week ahead specifically. So take a look at Palantir on the charts. We will then take a look at Bitcoin, at RIOT Platforms, and at Mara. Bitcoin, RIOT, and Mara, the entire crypto sector pretty much definitely underperformed on Friday. Thank goodness we had those Apple puts on deck, and especially those Palantir calls on deck. Palantir looking so freaking exciting right now. But Bitcoin, RIOT, and Mara didn't have the best Friday. I trust that the week ahead, especially heading into the election, because I am definitely convinced that the majority of Q4 will be good for Bitcoin and Bitcoin miners. Off to a tough start, but hey, again, corrections, they lower the value of your positions, obviously, but they also provide opportunities if you have some capital to deploy, if you're not content with your position size, if you want to get more on board to ride the waves that are coming, then corrections present opportunities. And that's really what I'll see, especially if we get one more pullback, which I think is possible, and that'll make sense as we can discuss Bitcoin. But I think we might get one more opportunity to strike while the iron's hot, and I'm excited to see if that comes to fruition. So again, Apple, Palantir, Bitcoin, RIOT Platforms, Mara Holdings, they changed their name on the charts. Let's read over this guy. Okay, so Wall Street is about to get hit with the newsiest week yet. Nice. Ahead of the election, just as the stock market has started to falter. Stock market has been incredibly oversold. We've been talking about that for a while. That's why we've also had Apple puts on deck. Investors will contend with the earnings results from 5 of the Mag 7 companies next week. Just read over all that. Alphabet, Tuesday, Microsoft, Meta, Wednesday, Amazon, Big Apple, Thursday. On top of that, there are important data releases on the docket, including a jobs report, inflation data, and a preliminary reading on third quarter gross domestic product. Those releases could make for a heady mix for a market that's already showing evidence of pre-election jitters. The VIX CBOE Volatility Index, known as Wall Street's fear gauge, this week ticked back above a 20 handle. You know what? Speaking of that, before I forget, Fear and Greed Index. Let's take a look at that. You guys have a little look into my just open browser tab. Fear and Greed Index. Okay, let's see what this is. I actually didn't look at this on Friday. We're definitely creeping back down. Okay, yeah, so end of the week really made our way back down. This is going to be a pretty good indicator too. Unless we get bad earnings, then I wouldn't be surprised if we get bad earnings on top of being in this overbought market. The S&P just and NASDAQ scratching new all-time highs pretty much every day. We're already in kind of what I would consider to be an over-optimistic market, especially as far as mega caps and the major indices are concerned, the S&P 500, NASDAQ, Dow Jones. I wouldn't be surprised if we do end up slipping into fear, maybe even scratch extreme fear as we just scratched extreme greed territory about a week or so ago. I wouldn't be surprised at all if we do tiptoe into extreme fear. I don't think we go super far unless something cataclysmic happens. Knock on wood for that. But I do think that if earnings aren't good this week, like objectively good, then I wouldn't be surprised if we do dip back into like mid-fear territory. And I do reference this when talking about puts, or like when I'm thinking about taking put profits. I will do that and redeploy capital into call options or into my stock positions even. Okay, so that's that. Just read over this quickly and then we'll dive into the charts. I sort of refer to this period that we're in right now as a strange brew, said Mark Malik, investment chief at Siebert. It'll either be a great week or a terrible week based upon how those things play out. So again, not a whole lot of meat in that statement. Pretty generic, honestly, but that's kind of the reality of it. This week will determine pretty much at least the next couple of weeks, okay? If 3 of these 5 companies announce bad earnings, the markets are definitely going to pull back. And again, there's always going to be winners and losers in this market. It's incredibly unlikely to me that all of these falter or all of these fall short of earnings. Absolutely not investment advice. It's completely speculative, just kind of off the cuff here. Apple, obviously bearish. We'll jump into that on the charts. Meta, I wouldn't be surprised if they're actually slowing down as far as ad revenue is concerned. We are picking up into the holidays, but I wouldn't be surprised if prior quarter was down. Alphabet, kind of a shot in the dark. The stock has been selling, like Meta has been ripping, so that's why I think there's more room to disappoint. Same applies to Apple. Apple just been crushing it, so there's just more room for disappointment when a stock has been rallying. Alphabet has been getting pretty just has been struggling for the past like 3 to 6 months, honestly. So I wouldn't be surprised if they have more room to beat. And again, this is all kind of relative to the stock price. Amazon, who knows? And then 1, 2, 3, 4. What's the other one? Alphabet, Google, Facebook. What am I missing? And Microsoft. I don't know about Microsoft. They have Azure. They have Cloud. Cloud typically carries everyone. Same goes for Amazon. Anyway, let's take a look at Apple. Okay, Apple, Palantir, Bitcoin, Riot, Mara. Apple looking beautifully bearish as we head into earnings week. We ultimately close this week back in at this massive symmetrical triangle pattern, slightly ascending triangle, because you could say that this is actually an ascending triangle as well right here. Ascending triangle pattern, broke above it momentarily a couple of times, but overall, this is just bearish. It seems like large capital allocators who have the incentive for Apple to go up because they have large holdings in Apple are really trying to prod the markets to buy and technical traders to buy. Excuse me. Probably other funds to buy. I'm pirate, you guys. I don't need to say excuse me, but I don't need to say excuse me. It's more Scottish. But anyway, so Apple, again, looking beautifully bearish. I do think that all of these rejections, all of these like attempted breakouts are ultimately bearish. And I do think that we ultimately do fall below this line of support. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if we do get a break prior to the earnings report on Thursday. Halloween, I'm hoping for a spooky day for Apple. Okay, so Apple, I do think, does fall short of Verizon's earnings. Just straight up said that smartphone sales are bad. That's bad for Apple. We just got that 10% or what was it, like 10 million iPhones. They slashed the order for like 10 million iPhones because demand is short from that was an estimate that came from their top analyst who has like boots on the ground in China. So things, and Apple again is just incredibly oversold or overbought. I'm sorry, not overbought as far as like RSI is concerned. This thing has just been ripping. And I brought this up in the last video. It's important to remember that just in May of this year, like less than half a year ago, Apple was trading at freaking 186. In April of this year, we traded a low of 165. Okay. So again, even if like worst case scenario happens in my mind, which would be a test of this line of a long-term support, macro support on this massive like ascending channel pattern, which I think will hold. And honestly, I think this is more likely than not by December 1st in the case that Apple does kind of disappoint as much as I believe they will. December 1st, if we do continue to correct, that would take us down to like $1.85. And again, considering we're just way above where we were before, and the macroeconomic environment is objectively not better. It's arguably worse. Luxury is struggling, like LVMH is struggling, Chanel is struggling. Apple is a luxury good, okay? A lot of people don't think about it like that, but the reality of it is it's a mid-tier luxury product. And if luxury is struggling, if the luxury consumer is struggling, if China is struggling, which they are, that's factual, especially through Starbucks is a super good comparison to it. Like Starbucks just tanked on earnings. Starbucks is seeing terrible sales. That, in my mind, is a very, very adjacent product to Apple. If the Starbucks consumer, if that stereotype is not buying Starbucks, they aren't buying Apple Watches, they aren't buying iPhones. And again, just boots on the ground. I'm a longtime Apple user, decade plus. None of my friends who are also like decade plus Apple users, Apple fanboys, are buying this iPhone. That's like, in my mind, that's solidifying this trade. Okay, so Apple, again, I wouldn't be surprised if we do ultimately come down to that line of macro support. My short-term target, in the case that we do break below this line of support right here, would be this kind of level that just acted as a floor over the course of September, and that would be 218. It's like 217.50, but again, don't get greedy, try to front run the other guys. 218 is my first profit target. From there, it would be a retest of this line of broken resistance as new support. I think that's very, very likely in the week ahead of Apple's earnings, in the case that they do, again, if they do fall short, like I think they will, and that would take us to around the $200 region. Of course, we will be covering this in the newsletter day by day. This is an exciting play, and I'm excited to see what happens here. I've had this thesis for a long time, so it'll finally be good to know whether I sound like an absolute moron or not. Okay, let's move on to Palantir. Palantir, again, did a pretty in-depth analysis going to Friday. Did end up scratching to do all-time highs after I recorded that video. Fun stuff. In the short term, I think there's a pretty easy price target for Palantir. Also, 4-hour RSI looking amazing right now. 4-hour RSI curling up back above its EMA. 1-day RSI also looking great, back above its exponential moving average. Fresh curl to the upside. Super, super bullish. And I think that's, as far as short term, like, again, this could happen. This could happen market open. So you guys, I do recommend it. I don't even always trade the market open. I don't like stressing out that much in the morning. But this week I will be waking up every morning at the market's open 6:30. Trading starts at 6:30. I'll be up at like 5:30, just getting ready and prepped. So just be ready, you guys. Stay on your toes. And personally, I do see a very, very easy target here in this conservative line of resistance. Is the line, as you guys know, I will be trading. So if short-term breakout, this thing's looking so good. Fresh all-time high, man. We're ripping. I don't want to say that for a fact, but like, just if there was momentum somewhere, it's freaking Palantir. Okay, so. I do see a line of conservative resistance just as a very, very likely target in the days ahead. Just say November 1st by, what is that? That would be, Friday. If we do test it by the end of the week, which I think is very likely. That would take us to about 48, just above 48.50, $49. A lot of traders are going to be eyeballing absolute resistance. That would take us up here to about $50. But again, 48.50, even 48, I'll probably start skimming profits because again, options trade off of perceived volatility and implied volatility, not necessarily price action itself. Okay, that's very important to always remember if you're trading options. Okay, say we hit it sooner, say we do hit it, say we just rip on Monday, as I said, on market open. Best case scenario right here, but if that happens, that would take us to, see by end of the day Monday, up 6%, up to about 47.50. So keep an eye on this, you guys. If you're trading Palantir with me, have these lines drawn. Definitely trade. Again, not advice, but I will be trading conservative resistance, and let's hope we see 5-6% move in the very near future. Bitcoin looking pretty good over the course of the weekend, but unfortunately for the bulls, I do think that this kind of janky little head and shoulders pattern is likely on the bright side. I will say that I've eliminated the potential. It's not completely eliminated. If we break below $62,000, I actually do think this is likely. But I do think that this regular head and shoulders pattern will play itself out. I do think Bitcoin will ultimately fall if we do fall. It's always possible that we end up ripping higher and break out and head to new all-time highs. But if we do fall, then I do think that there's a solid floor around 63,500. And if that happens, Riot will pull back too, and I'm absolutely going to shark up more calls. Where will Riot fall if Bitcoin falls? There's a very, very simple line of short-term support here. This orange line that I'm about to draw down to 6 to 8% pullback. Maybe we see it if Bitcoin sells off prior to Riot's earnings report on the Wednesday. 100% going to be sharking up significantly more calls on Riot, because I am bullish on their earnings report. I do think that Riot will succeed in the months ahead, and I will absolutely be buying, just for transparency. If you guys, again, are members of the portfolio, if you are, these have been members for quite a while, more December 20th call options on Riot if we do see a pullback. If we rip, great. I still have plenty on deck. Mara, and we'll call it a day. Similar, like tomato, you guys. Riot has been if we just look at Riot and Mara, I'd love to see that Riot has been gaining more traction. They're seeing more momentum. They're seeing more average more a higher volume than average as opposed to Mara. But again, they're always going to trade relatively similarly. Mara in a very, very clear short-term ascending channel. This inverse head and shoulders pattern isn't quite looking as good as I'd like it to. But overall, when it comes to the longer term, you guys, if Bitcoin does rip, this line of broken support that is yet to be retested as new resistance is just absolutely asking for it, in my opinion. So again, if we see this by December 20th, a lot of you will know why I chose that date. If we see this happen by December 20th, that would take us to a 2750 plus Mara. I will definitely be taking some profits around 2550, and probably on the way up here, like just ballparking it right here. This little gap right here hasn't been retested yet. That'll probably serve as a little bit of resistance around 2350. So just keep an eye on those levels, you guys, if you're trading these, of course, and do your best to not get greedy. We'll call it there. Get ready for a freaking exciting week ahead. Could be spooky. Could be incredibly lucrative. I'm hoping it's both. I'm hoping, to be completely honest, my biggest trades, as many of you know, I'm hoping Palantir rips and I'm hoping Apple dips. So if it does, we will be celebrating. We will be getting extra spooky this weekend, drinking extra potions out of that cauldron. And yeah, I'm excited for what's ahead. I appreciate you guys watching. Appreciate you guys for being members, and I appreciate you for riding with me as always. Talk to me in the comments downstairs. Always love talking to you guys. Just spitball some ideas back and forth. So I'll catch you down there. Until next time, always remember, take action, make waves. Peace.